Hey. Woo. Good morning, everybody. Aloha. Aloha. Give me the shaka sign, baby. We're getting there slowly but surely. Look at John. Look at John's shirt, Mike's shirt, Peter's shirt. All righty. Anyway, welcome, everybody. So nice of you to join us today. I really appreciate it. Our special presenter today is a good friend, dear friend, Annmarie Huppert. She is not only an advocate for survivors struggling with post-traumatic stress and the author of PTSD Self-Help, Transforming Survival into a Life Worth Living, but she's also an equine gestaltist. Did I pronounce that correctly? And life leadership coach for more than 20 years. Annmarie and her equine partner, do you say equine or equine? her equine partner, Indy, offers a fresh experience of re-engagement with one's sense of purpose and vocational passion. As an equine healing practitioner, she acknowledges the ability of animals to assist humans in the healing process and promote best practices that protect both. Annmarie has a BA in psychology and public policy and is an ordained minister and a certified practitioner of equine Gestalt coaching method developed by Melissa Pierce. She loves yoga and nature, meditating near the water when she's not enjoying her 3 grandchildren. She lives on the Salish Sea in beautiful Gig Harbor, Washington, with her horse and 2 pugs. Welcome, Annmarie.
Oh, good morning, Chamber of Commerce members and honored guests. Yes, my name is Annmarie Huppert. Thank you, Miriam. And I am so pleased to be able to be here standing in front of you today. I've shared a number of presentations around town, and this is one of my favorites. What I'm going to share with you today is a little bit of explanation about post-traumatic stress. Not going to get real deep into it. I'll touch a little bit on my book and the work that I do in the community. And then we'll leave some time for you to ask questions later. On your table, there's a business card that shows you a little bit about my website and where I'm located here in the harbor. And then the other cards with the cover of my book on them take you directly to Amazon where the book's sold. So if you are a person who likes to hand out resources to people, it's a great little tool if you come across a waitress or somebody that you're engaging in the community and they're having a tough day. It might not be necessarily about them and their challenges in life, but maybe they're supporting someone who's struggling with trauma or is just struggling in general. And feel free to just slip them one of those cards and wish them a great day. It's become, it was published in 2014, and the feedback on that has been that both survivors of post-trauma and their family members value the book tremendously as a guide in helping them understand what's going on with their loved one. And it gives them language and ways to talk about it and understand it so that they can, continue to support their loved one in a healthy way. So that's a little bit about the book. I published this book because at the time when I went through my own intensive healing journey in the early 2000s, there were no real resources available for lay people. The shelf, at Barnes and Noble, when you could walk in that day was, about this long, and it was full of collegiate material. It was intended for practitioners. And so, sifting through a lot of that material and then digesting it and translating it into lay non-technical terms for lay people is what I do best. And when I help people, families in particular, who are supporting someone who's recovering, primarily my job is that of a translator in some respects to help the family understand what their loved one's mindset is and what their challenges are, and then helping the survivor themselves step up to the plate and take responsibility for healing. So let's take a moment. This morning, we've all been rushing around, probably getting kiddos off to school or doing what you do in the morning, hopefully going out for a walk and enjoying some fresh air. But we're often somewhere else in our brains when we rush in and get our mornings started this early. So I'd like to invite you to allow your soul to catch up with your body for a moment. And would you, with me, close your eyes? And while you have your eyes closed, I'd like to invite you to bring your attention to your breath. Noticing that when you sit here in this chair, that you are breathing without having to really think too much about it. Maybe bringing your attention to where you feel that air first enter your body. Does it feel warm? Does it maybe feel a little cool? Noticing how it ends up at the back of your throat, warming sensation as it enters down into your lungs. Just noticing, not changing. And as you sit here noticing your breath, this is the one thing that connects all of us on this planet. This is the silver cord that keeps us here and present and in our lives. We share this breath with every living thing. It is the one unique thing that we share with all living creatures. And though we all have blood running through our veins as humans and animals, even plants share this oxygen that we're breathing. I want you to know that you're safe in this moment. And when you feel comfortable, please open your eyes. If you've experienced this metaphorical adventure that we're about to go on before, I ask you to kind of withhold your knowledge about it so that others who've not experienced this can have the effect. But is this a picture that you see here on the screen of an old woman or a young woman? Like this. Okay. So I was standing in front of the old woman or the young woman. Is this a picture of an old woman or a young woman? Feel free to make your guess. And I'm curious. Raise your hand if you think that this is a picture of an old woman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or so people out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 29, a little more than, well, a little less than half. Okay, so that means the rest of you think this is a young woman. I've got some nods. Okay. I have one person so far who says they see both. Anyone else see both? Okay, excellent. Very good. How about now? Do you see the old woman now? Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about now? Mm-hmm. So this is an interesting experience, and I like to share that you've just experienced what it's like to have post-traumatic stress in some respects. So individuals who have post-trauma have been deeply imprinted by an event in their life that skews their vision of the world as they look through the lens of life. If you think of the picture on the far right as the view that people are trying to see in life as they go through their day, and the hand sketched picture next to it as the imprinting event that informs how they view the world, you can see how when you see this particular image, the only conclusion you could come to is that that other picture is a picture of a young woman. Whereas if you were imprinted with this particular image, you would look at the one on the right and see the old woman. And so likewise, when trauma happens to a person, all of who they are as a human being is present in that moment. So imagine that you are going about your day doing whatever it is you do, maybe brushing your teeth, thinking thoughts about what you're going to do during the day, and, maybe reminiscing about a memory, thinking about what you want to do later on in the evening. You're noticing as you're brushing your teeth that, you've got your warm, cozy pajamas on and it feels nice and cool in your house and you can smell bacon cooking in the kitchen. And then suddenly the big one happens. I used to be on the Pepsi Emergency Preparedness Coalition. They scare the living daylights out of us that any moment the big earthquake's going to happen. That would be a traumatic incident for anyone who experienced that. And what will happen to a person that experiences that event is that all of who they are is frozen in time for just a moment. The taste in their mouth, the thoughts that they were thinking, their resonance, even on a spiritual and soul level at that moment, the things they were smelling kind of get frozen for a moment in time so that all the energy in the body and the brain can be diverted to survival. Now, this is where post-trauma gets in the way, is that they get stuck in that mode. And so when you think about post-traumatic stress and unraveling that ball of yarn, all of those sensory experiences, all of the sensory connection that they had at the moment in time that the trauma occurred is wrapped up in their trauma. That's why they can't continue through life without bumping into triggers that remind them. The next time they smell bacon, the next time they brush their teeth, the next time they put on a warm, comfy pajamas or something, it has the potential of unthawing that frozen piece. And so it takes an approach from all angles to be able to help someone recover. And that's what I've been specializing in for about 23 years now. What I'm happy to introduce to you now is that at about halfway through my career lifetime here, I continue to have trauma people come to me, and I will never turn away survivors. But I'm so excited to share with you that my new niche focus for the second half of my life career is that of nonprofit organization founders and founders of socially conscious businesses. If you have any interactions with nonprofit organizations, you know that these organizations are started by people who have had something happen in their life and they want to see change happen in the world. I saw that Leslie Main's going to be on your schedule here in the next few weeks. She is a key example of that. Someone who has had a traumatic experience in their life or something that's happened to someone very near and dear to them often see the gap in society between government programs and public policy and the fact that people are falling through the cracks, and they see solutions and they want to bring those solutions to the table. Nonprofit organizations make up more than 10% of the overall GDP in the United States. And the US knows this. They're relying on good people like you and me to identify problems in our community and come up with solutions that'll work for us. And my role here in the community now is to support people like you who want to do that. I can teach you how to be an advocate. I can teach you how to get down into Olympia and help your voice be heard. I can help you clarify your vision and your values. And I do this all in partnership with my equine partner, Indy. So if you'd like to know more about the work I'm doing with nonprofit founders and founders of socially conscious businesses, you can check that out at npoimpact.org. That's nonprofit organization impact.org. And we've got some good podcasts up where we've talked to individuals about nonprofit organizations and how they're running and how they can move into the 21st century and really be contenders for the finances that they're really looking for. So on that note, at the back of my book, I talk a little bit about a vision that I've had for more than 20 years to create a healing center. And originally it was called the Center for Hope and Renewal. And I don't know. I did a lot of research. I'm a grant writer. I've watched the nonprofit world and helped in the nonprofit sector for many years. And there was something that just was like, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. And when my first granddaughter was born, I think I realized that maybe that's why, is I didn't really want to be tied to a physical 30+ acre facility. I wanted to be able to be free to travel and see my grandchildren who live in Los Angeles. And so I decided at some point that that probably wasn't going to be a reality for me. And I'm so pleased now to see that there are healing centers all over the nation now. At a time when I was thinking about it, they didn't exist. And so now there are so many healing opportunities for people to partner with horses and involve other alternative methods. But like most people, I grew up a young girl crazy about horses, and my parents would never expose me to that. And nevertheless, whenever we went to the Point Defiance Zoo, which these pictures of me as a youngster are on the carousel at Point Defiance and the pony rides that they used to have there, every time I had an opportunity to get on a horse or near a horse, man, I took it. And when we moved from Lakewood over to University Place, I was blessed that the man who owned the property behind our new house had 5 acres and 2 horses. So I was the girl who'd sneak through the fence and, play with the horses, and eventually got to ride and travel around University Place on my mare, or my friend's mare, who interestingly looks a lot like Indy right now. So so one thing I want you to understand about children and trauma is that they don't ever bounce back. So we've heard this said, and some psychology in the 70s said, don't worry about kids, they're resilient. Just don't talk to them about what happened so that they're not re-experiencing the trauma over and over. And we found out that those things are wrong. They're very, very damaging to not talk to your children about what's bothering them. And they don't bounce back. They do evolve, they do grow, they do integrate what has happened, and they find a way to be okay in the world, but they'll never be the same again. And I can say that because I am one of those children. My abuse actually started when I was very young. Actually, when I was born, the first person to hold me was the pediatrician, who would abuse me in my medical sessions every year until I was 18. And then when I was 10 years old, I was abducted by an extended family member and taken out of the country into the remote regions of Canada, where I was held for 2 weeks. And some pretty awful things happened. And then when I turned 14, my parents left me home alone for one of the very first times. And like most 14-year-old girls, I was talking to a boy on the phone, and he put 2 and 2 together that my parents weren't home, and came over to the house and forced his way in and raped me on the floor of my living room. When I turned 18, I moved away to California to try to get away from all of the awful memories and things that I had originally here in Washington, and moved in with extended family members. And the male part of that equation felt that my best payment for rent for living in their house was for him to be able to sneak into my bed at night. So I got out of that situation by getting married to someone that I hardly knew, and ended up being a physical abuser. So I was in a domestic violence relationship for about 5 years. And then my mom passed away from cancer, and that brought me back to Washington State to care for her. And in that time, I met my next relationship, who just lived 2 doors down from my childhood home. Ended up marrying an alcoholic. And it was about that time I figured out, the common denominator in this equation is me. So I think my pickers broke and decided to turn and face the traumatic experiences that I had suffered, including a nervous breakdown that almost put me in a mental institution, caused me to lose my son, and a number of other challenges. And I dedicated 3 years, 24/7, to nothing but healing activities. And the premise was simply that I did not want to experience any more physical symptoms. There's a lot of physical symptoms associated with trauma. And I also didn't want to be afraid anymore. I didn't want to constantly be feeling like something was lurking behind me, that I was going to be triggered by a smell of bacon or a warm, comfy, pair of pajamas, and then have it level me for 2 weeks, 2 months. I couldn't live like that anymore. And so I turned and faced that. And what you see in the book, PTSD Self-Help, as a degreed paralegal and person who hung out at the ledge for a while, I took copious notes during those 3 years. And so the book is written very directly to survivors. It tells them exactly what they'll need to do to walk themselves out of post-traumatic stress. And also, it doesn't go through and rehash things like what is trauma. It's not about educating people, because survivors already know, they're living it. It's about helping those who are supporting them understand how best to serve them and support them. And it's about survivors themselves finding that pathway out. Just a quick mention about this particular image. This picture of me on the horse was taken by my abductor when I was in Canada. 1 week into the situation, he said that if I got on the phone with my mother and told her that I was having a good time, that he would reward me with the ability to ride a horse. So this gives you a little bit of idea of just how nefarious predators can be. They know exactly what people want and what their desires are and what they love the most, and they go after it to use it against them. So the moral of this is really, don't wait. If you see something unusual going on in the life of someone that you love, say something to them. I felt as a child that I was screaming to the high heavens, but the reality was I probably wasn't. I was probably pretty quiet and introverted and didn't have too much to say. But if someone had asked, I would have been happy to share with them, which is why I also help mentor teens in the community, to make myself available to be a safe space for them to share what's going on in their lives. So I am an equine gestaltist. Being a gestaltist means that I live very much in the present moment. This also means that I do not create unfinished business in my life. So Gestalt is a German word that is difficult to translate into the English language. As an author, I cherish words and love to take them apart and think about their meanings and their origins. And so when I think about the words that are used to describe survivors, as well as the words that we try to use for healing methodologies, it's important for all of us to understand what those words really mean. And in Gestalt, the best we can come to translating that in the English language is this idea of flowing into form. So if you think about sitting on your couch and you're maybe reading a book, and there's something in your body starts stirring to bring your awareness to the fact that you're thirsty, that's the beginning of a Gestalt moment. The part where you put it together and you say, oh, I think I would like to have a drink of water. That next action you take to rise up off the couch is a completed Gestalt moment. So when clients come to me, they don't need to rehearse or rehash their stories. They don't need to tell me much of anything, to be honest, about their traumatic past. They can simply share with me what's bothering them that day or in that moment. Oftentimes their body will tell me. They don't even have to say anything. And we just work with what arises in a moment. And inevitably, when I put them in with Indy points out a number of things that are going on with them. She has the gift of being able to help people balance their energy. So the Heart Math Institute has identified that a horse can sense a human heartbeat up to a mile away. And within 10 feet, they can actively use their bodies to help bring down our heart rate and syncopate it with their own. And so they can lower your blood pressure by up to 10% just by being physically near within 10 feet or so of a horse. So she does do that, and you'll see her, if you come out to visit us, she'll move around a client with her body. And that's what she's doing is she's like, oh, you poor little human, you're just frazzled, let me help bring your energy down so that I feel safe because you're a little scary right now. So anyway, she also has the gift of being able to identify if people have pain or wounds or something going on with their body. She'll indicate that to me as well. And a number of other little fun things that, we have this special relationship where I can kind of connect with her and reveal things that the client doesn't need to speak out loud. And oftentimes she will put herself in proximity to the client in such a way that they have a huge epiphany on their own without any guidance, really. And when you learn a lesson from a 1,200-pound animal that's neutral, doesn't speak English, there's a tremendous amount of trust there when that lesson hits home. And it's something that people never forget. So from this Gestalt perspective, my philosophy is that people are whole and they have the ability to heal. We know this is true when you cut your skin within a few days, it, forms a scab and then the scab falls off and it might have a scar for a while, but even the scar fades. The truth is that even in our minds and our hearts can heal as well. And we are perfection and whole at the core. It's Indy's job and my job to help you explore whatever answers you're looking for within yourself. And as you can imagine, for nonprofit founders who start organizations based on some lightning strike in their past, when they really step into leadership and they start to move about in the community, they often hit a wall because they have personal limitations about unfinished business from the past that they have not brought to completion. And so my goal in working with nonprofit founders is to help them overcome those limitations as quickly as possible. If in the process of helping them form their organization and design their, future moving forward in that organization, if they come up against a personal leadership limitation that's connected to their painful past, then Indy and I have the trauma experience to deal with it right then and there, and then we move on. Also, lifestyle is key. This is something that we've heard this for years. I know you have. Your doctor tells you all the time, drink plenty of water, get plenty of rest, get out and get some exercise. Well, guess what? I'm here to tell you again, if you have unfinished business in your past and you're going to tackle this objective of recovering from post-trauma, especially if you have a diagnosis, then it has to be a whole body, whole person approach, because remember, that's how the trauma happened. All of who you were was there, not just your brain. You don't just take your brain to the therapist and put it on the couch and pick away at that and ignore everything else. So here's some quick thoughts about how you can make that shift. So the idea is to create some balance for yourself. So it's body, mind, spirit, and community. And the fact that you're here enjoying, the Chamber of Commerce and all of that, and you're involved in your community, you've got that covered. Don't forget to take good care of your body and your mind as well as your spirit. So post-traumatic stress disorder, this is one of my hangups on the word play. If you've heard these words as a survivor yourself or someone that you love has received these words as a diagnosis, the first experience is one of relief. Because it's like, oh, finally, now I've got a label and I can be more specific about looking for solutions. The bummer is that it's a label and it happens to be disordered. I don't know about you, but that really turns me off, because what I know about post-traumatic stress is that it is not something wrong with you. Post-traumatic stress is a normal response to an abnormal amount of stress that you have been put under. It's one of the few diagnoses in the DSM that is wholly influences the mind by an external source. So this isn't like an organic, you're born with post-trauma, although there are many studies now being done about generational trauma and the tendencies to be susceptible to things. There's a debate, is this learned behavior or is this wired into our system? But the truth of the matter is, regardless, that it's a normal response that your body is having. The thing that's abnormal is the amount of stress that you were put under. For that one moment, whether that was the explosion on the road to Kabul or whether that was, the things that happened to me or the natural disaster, whatever the lightning strike was, doesn't matter. The fact that your body is responding the way that I suggested by freezing things momentarily until you can figure them out at a later date, which might be 2 weeks down the road or 2 years or 20 or 60 years down the road, it will begin to unthaw when you are feeling safest and most supported. That's why survivors sometimes feel so much shame, is because their lives are going so well. They've got kids, a supportive family, they're living in a house, they've got a great job, and then suddenly they feel terrible. They're having flashbacks and triggers and hypervigilance and all kinds of physical problems. And they're like, my life is so beautiful and perfect. Why do I feel so awful? It's because that thawing out experience is happening because they are safe and they do have the support. And so it's part of my job and Indy's job is to help family members and support people understand that and understand what their role is in helping someone. And so many survivors do say, okay, if this is the normal response, why do I feel so abnormal? Well, when the traumatic incident occurred, there will be periods of time where you literally get shoved back in time and you feel as if you're back in that space. So imagine a 10-year-old girl in a 33-year-old woman's body. And at that time, I knew I was acting like a 10-year-old, but I was powerless to stop it. It was reactionary. It was part of my mind and my body's way of trying to process what had happened back then because I had been shut down and not able to process it at that time. So these are some symptoms, real-time symptoms that people experience if they're suffering post-trauma. And when you look at these things, this could be anything. To be honest, can you see how I was misdiagnosed with Crohn's disease and forced onto, steroidal medication and 15 pills a day, even with no pathology? I had awful digestive problems. And I tell you what, 3 months into work with my psychologist, all of that went away. Yeah. Other experiences that my clients have had are similar. A lot of these physical symptoms that they have when they come into contact with Indy, they disappear. And especially as they uncover and Gestalt their unfinished business. Much of this information is being studied now, and we'll get to that here in just a little bit. Okay. So in the book, I teach people how to develop a healing plan and how to develop a healing team of professionals. And there are 7 positions on that team. And the very first position has to be the survivor. They've got to commit to the process. And it's not just simply going to a mental health professional. It is a whole body experience. It's a lifestyle shift, much like getting diagnosed with cancer. When you realize, oh no, I have cancer, I need to eat better, I need to get more exercise, or a heart condition, maybe when that happens. This is like that. You receive the diagnosis, it's time to tackle the whole body, the whole person in every way that you can moving forward until you feel well. I teach people how to choose a mental health professional in the book, what questions to ask, how to break up with your mental health professional when you don't like them, or it's time for you to move on and you're feeling better. I teach spouses and significant others exactly what their role is in helping someone that they love, especially if it's their spouse. And there are some very specific things that they should not do. But by having a healing team, they are able to simply partner with their spouse and direct them into the healing team so that those marriages can stay together during that process. A unique role in this team is the idea of a healing partner. And this is kind of like a caregiver in a way. I saw our community caregiver person here in the room today. And actually, that I would love to see that industry open up to helping people who have post-trauma, because so often I was not able to go grocery shopping because of the lighting and the noise and the music and the distraction. It would be helpful to have caregivers who can do grocery shopping, laundry, small tasks around the house while they're recovering. A naturopathic physician is important to add to your regular professional caregiver, medical caregiver. Many survivors are leery of Western medicine and they're distrustful sometimes of professionals. And so naturopathic physicians work in conjunction with how your body operates. They offer supplements and natural alternatives that survivors feel more open and welcome to receive. And then sometimes that opens the doorway for them to have the trust then to take medication if that's required by their mental health professional. And it is a possibility, and it's helpful for people to be on medication sometimes so that they can learn new life skills while they're under that medication that will hold once they come off. A chiropractic doctor is helpful for keeping your structural alignment in place. If that gets out of whack, then the body can't communicate to the extended extremities to be able to continue healing, and that includes the brain. So if your spine is out of alignment and you're not getting good energy flow to and from the brain, it's just going to work harder. So this is about getting obstacles out of the way so that the body can do what it needs to do. And then lastly, a massage therapist to help resolve something called body armoring. And body armoring you see with people sometimes. They'll be, even when they're walking down in the harbor, more hitched up on their right side. And it's just simply chronic holding patterns for tension. We all know where we get our tension. Maybe it's in our neck and our shoulders, other people in their lower back. But massage therapy, tackling this all at the same time, can help unlock that body armoring. So anyway, I, in the book, talk about how to choose a mental health professional. And the professional I want to talk to you about now is specifically the horses. And about a year and a half into my 3-year recovery period, I hit a wall, and my mental health professional told me that I needed to accept the fact that I would periodically be institutionalized because of my condition. And I thought, well, that's not very encouraging. And I certainly didn't want my future grandchildren at that time or my son to come and visit me in a mental health hospital. So I put the brakes on my healing journey and said, I need to absorb this and really come to grips with it. I asked my healing partner at the time to look for a retreat center that might have horses available and psychological support. She was not able to find anything at all at that time. But what we did find was a master's in social work down in Centralia by the name of Lee Shambo. who was exploring this connection of horses and humans, and specifically starting a study with St. Peter's Hospital down there in Lacey to see if we could identify what is it about horses that help humans feel better. And so I became one of her first study people. And my first interaction was with this lovely mare named Maggie, who had been abandoned at the barn. And Maggie taught me some very profound lessons about where my unfinished business lied, who it was connected to, and how to begin to move forward in that. So when I think about, the fact that I didn't need to be repaired or fixed. What I needed to live the kind of life that wouldn't create unfinished business. That was something that trauma taught me, was that if it hurts, just let it encapsulate and push it away. And that's a lot like Western society, right? We are taught to just not express our feelings. So here's a fun picture of, how we work with Gestalt. It's a very active experience. You aren't sitting and talking and talking and talking. You're talking very little. You give a few clues as to what's going on, and you're up out of your seat and you're playing like a child and experiencing what you're experiencing and coming to your own epiphanies. It's my role to guide you in these activities, what we call experiments. In this particular case, this client, this is one of my clients who I was working with in Colorado. She is a busy entrepreneur, and she is so excited about what she's offering for veterans. She's doing the same kind of work that I do. And she had all of these ideas and things that she wanted to launch out the door, and they're all represented by those balls and everything else that she's holding. And she was explaining at the beginning, I just feel so overwhelmed. I'm really excited, but I don't know where to start. I feel overwhelmed. And I said, let's roll with that. And this is how we set up the experiment. And so we move through the experiment until the client themselves finds the answers that they're looking for. There are over 240 equine gestaltists in the world. I happen to coordinate all of the practitioners west of the Mississippi, up through Canada, into Alaska, and out to Hawaii and down into Mexico. So it's likely, if you want to experience this in some unique and special way, not only do Indy and I provide the service here in Gig Harbor, but we also have connections to other people in beautiful places like Costa Rica, which I am forming a group if anybody wants to go to Costa Rica with me. So there has been some scientific study on our particular methodology, and studies show, these studies are independent studies that have been done by third-party folks. And their initial study was done with homeless teens who were also drug addicted. And most people come away from these experiences in the 70 to 80 percentile range of strongly agree that the methodology was tremendously helpful for them. And when we say helpful, we mean not just for that immediate moment, but years later, they're contacted and say, so, how's that still going for? They're like, I never even think about it anymore. It's just a non-issue in my life. So what Gestalt does is it pulls the power and the energy out of the unfinished business so that it's complete and it can be laid to rest, so to speak. So this is a little diagram that if we had more time, I could explain to you exactly what's going on between the horse and the human. But essentially, when you get the opportunity to work with Indy and I will be outside of the pen. Indy will be inside the pen. She has no halter or lead rope, no tack on at all. She's completely at liberty to work with you or not. And that's a distinction in this methodology that doesn't exist in other methods. We hold the horse as sacred, independent beings that can choose whether or not they want to work with an individual. We don't force them. They're not a They're not a tool. They're not a pawn in a game that we play with humans. They are a living being that has an opinion and something that they want to share, and we make that available to them. And so she is in this pen at Liberty. I send the client in with some prep, right? You know, some people are, oh, a horse, oh my gosh. So they go in and they stand at the center, and I speak to the client from the outside of the pen, and I observe and watch Indy and let her do what she needs to do. And I guide the client through some experiments in that pen that Indy is a part of. She will manipulate the tools, the hula hoops, the balls. She'll play with the cones. She'll do certain things with her body. She'll even make sounds that indicate to me I know what she's doing, and that helps me then to guide the client into their own solutions and experience of Gestalt. So this is basically what people are saying about the methodology and the experience at large. I am putting together some groups. We're going to start here in July doing discovery days out at the barn. So this is open to the community at large. There is a fee attached to it because we do take you through a group experience where you get to engage with Indy and potentially some other horses on the property. And it's a great day to come out and have some fun. This isn't about deep process work. It's about my work that I do with nonprofit founders and socially conscious business owners. You come out, discover more about yourself, learn how you interact with others, how you interact on a team, and, you know, have a beautiful day out on the farm with lunch provided and some relaxation. People go away from that feeling more connected, more at peace within themselves, and excited about, you know, their future, what they want to plan. And they do sometimes come away thinking, wow, if I can feel this good, you know, doing this kind of work, maybe I am willing to take a look at some unfinished business in my life. And do it in a fun way. So when I work here in Gig Harbor with Indy. I also work in Covington with two horses, a mare named Gift and a gelding named Fella. I also work in Cave Creek, Arizona, on a ranch that has about 80 horses for me to choose from. I work in Elizabeth, Colorado with a tight-knit herd of about 5 gypsy vanners. And then I work in Tehachapi, California, where my son and grandchildren are located. And I'm just now establishing connections with a location to work there consistently with some horses. So if you know anybody in Tehachapi, give me a call, right? So ultimately, I hope that you'll take the PTSD self-help book cards that I put on your table and distribute those out in the community. Again, it's a great resource for you to be able to help someone that's hurting if you recognize that somebody needs a lift in their day. And then if you want to participate in discovery days out at the barn, I'll be forming some special groups. I don't know, Miriam, if you want to form a special group through the chamber, we can do some registrations that way. I'll be offering this through the Rotary too, and maybe some other, I'd love to get the Waterfront Alliance businesses together and have a business owners day, Gig Harbor Business Owners Day out at the farm. So we've got some fun stuff planned, including some Friday nights called Dream Theater, where you bring a reoccurring dream or an old dream that you've had, and everyone gets involved, and we create an experience where we kind of act out your dream and find out what your subconscious has to say to you about it. It's a lot of fun on a Friday night to be able to run around in the barn with doing that. So lastly, if you'd like to come out to the farm for any reason at all, or if you have questions about post-traumatic stress, how to prevent that, which is my goal in life, is to help equip people so that when life happens, as we all know it does, we lose people. We're all heading to the exit door, right? And we go there alone. We lose people in life. Tragic things happen. Pandemics occur. it's my belief that if you can learn what I did to recover from post-trauma and implement that in your life now, when lightning strikes happen, you'll already have the tools to be able to overcome that and not acquire that stuck feeling and that diagnosis of post-traumatic stress. So with that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Very inspiring presentation. So we do have time for a few questions here. So just going to ask the first one. Let's start with Peter here. It sounds as though this experience is a liberating experience. Is it always?
It really is always. It is. I will say that when people find the courage to show up for an equine Gestalt experience and to really go deeply to very deep, painful places, it is not easy. It is done in support. So there's always myself, Indy, and a third person called a horse handler that's there in support of the person. A session is scheduled for 3 hours. Typically it takes about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. And at the end, they may be crying. I've had people throw up in the arena, whatever they have to do to get all of that out of their body and out of their symptomology, they're supported in doing. And then they come away saying, I feel so much lighter. Everyone says that. I feel so much lighter, like a weight's been lifted off of me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are your thoughts about separate individuals experiencing the very same serious trauma
Mhm.
and one being severely affected and the other not at all?
Right. Yeah. You know, when I referred earlier in the presentation to all of who we are as a human being is present when that trauma happens. Well, as you can imagine, we're all very different, right? You know, there's another concept I teach called the belief window, and that really impacts how we show up every day in a moment. We're all so unique and different that when a lightning strike happens, even with 2 people present, they're going to absorb that completely differently. The taste in my mouth might be different from the taste in your mouth if a lightning strike happened right here. I might be sweating profusely and you might be freezing. You know, these are just some small distinctions that we can relate to. When you get down into the more complex layers of what it means to be human and what they're thinking about in their heart and soul when that trauma happens, or even the perspective that they're in proximity to the trauma, like literally in the room, they may see it from a different angle or perspective. It's not that what they see because it's different is false. It's just simply a different look. For instance, Mount Rainier, right? If we were on the east side looking at the mountain would look very different from what it does when we look at it from the west side. And so that's a lot of the education I do with families, is helping them to understand how each individual is viewing life through that traumatic lens.
I think we have time for one more question. Hang on.
Right.
You always need to have books. My daughter is in
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's great. Nice. Yeah, no, I do work independently from Indy. Yeah, I do work independently from Indy, and oftentimes in a situation like that, let's say I was going to take a group of people there, or I was going to gather a group of people there, I would partner with an outside facility and we would transport people over to where the horses are. The horses don't require any training. They just are asked to be who they are. So I can work with any horse that's willing to do the work. But I also, as a professional, see people by Zoom and do show up at retreats and different facilities to offer Gestalt services separate from equine assisted services.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can we give her a round of applause?
Thank you.
Now it's time to find out what's going on in the community. And I believe we have our city manager online, Katrina Knutson. Can you give us an update?
Certainly. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful week so far. 3 quick items for you. I know we're running short on time today after that wonderful presentation. Wanted to let you know that we have a comprehensive plan visioning fair happening at Civic Center on Saturday from 10 to 2. So if you, it's not a come for the full 4 hours, but feel free to come in, drop by, learn about what's going to be and let us know what your vision for the community over the next 20 years is for housing, transportation, land use, environment, all of those things. Secondly, I wanted to let you know that the legislature did pass a drug law. So our officers now will be able to, as of July 1st, prosecute drug offenses as a gross misdemeanor, which is a wonderful solution that aligns with our legislative agenda. So we thank our 26th legislative delegation. With that, we will be having a small celebration in advance of Monday's council meeting for our 26th legislative delegation for Emily Randall, Spencer Hutchins, and Michelle Caldier. The public is welcome to join. And that is really just a thank you for them for working so hard for our community in the session, in particular, helping us receive the Watch-It funding to make some of those fixes, as well as Blake and other matters. Lastly, reminder that this is filing week for office. If anyone has questions about filing for city office, please feel free to give our city clerk a call. We're happy to help you with that. As of right now, there are one person per seat for the ones that are up for the city. Lee Rodenberg has refiled, Mary Barber has refiled, and Ben Coronado has filed for the position that Julie Martin currently sits in. So wanted to make the public aware of that availability. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Miriam, can you give us a chamber update?
First of all, I know our speaker wasn't very loud. Did everybody catch what she was saying? Because I can repeat it. Couldn't hear. Okay. So the city is working on a comp plan, and this Saturday they're going to have an open house at City Hall. It starts at 10. So if you want to look at how they are planning for the city, and the comp plan gets updated, I believe, every 20 years. So it's something that is worth participating in. So that one I would definitely recommend. She also talked about the drug law that was passed yesterday. Thank you. I saw Michelle Caldier and Spencer Hutchins last night at an event, and I just thank them for putting some laws around drugs so that they are illegal and our officers can do their job. They will be, the city will be celebrating the work that our elected officials in Olympia did. So there will be a celebration, and I believe I heard city council at the next city council meeting. And then this is also filing week. So if you are interested in running for public office, be sure to do so. There have been at least one person per seat that has filed already. So that's good news. Anyway, so that's that. Just kind of as a recap of what Katrina said. And then at the chamber, guess what's happening in a couple of weeks? So you're probably going to see us look a little more gray. We'll probably absolutely need your help for post-traumatic after the maritime game. No, just kidding. No, it's a lot of fun. We're having such a good time. The vendors we're working with are great. We're going to actually have more vendors this year than we ever have. Yeah. Vendors came out of the woodwork. So it's been really super fun. And we're doing some interesting things with some of the downtown businesses so that we don't block their business, but actually have an extension of their store out onto the street, both on Harborview Drive as well as Pioneer. So I'd like to encourage you guys to attend the Maritime gig. It's going to kick off with the Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast. The new location this year will be down at the Scansey Brother Park. So come down, get your chairs set up along the parade route, walk over to the park, grab some pancakes, sausage, bacon, maybe. I have no sausage, no bacon. So, okay, well, pancakes and sausage. No, I'm just kidding. No, that'll be great. And orange juice. Okay. So important things in life. So anyway, so that'll be a fun way to start your day. Watch, so you can be carb loading for the runners that are going to go in the 5K. I think that's helpful. Yeah. And cheer them on and then enjoy the parade. And following, we're going to have a bunch of really great bands on Saturday and Sunday. The food trucks will be there both Saturday and Sunday. Knights of Columbus will come back to the park on Sunday and have their salmon burgers like they usually do, hamburgers, hot dogs, etc. We are excited to also have the Coast Guard returning on Saturday. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So they're going to be doing a search and rescue demonstration should they not get called away. So it's always, we're at the whim of whatever happens out in real life. So, but should they be able to do it, they're aiming for about 1:30. Yes, Steve. Yes, the Blessing of the Fleet is on Sunday. So that one is at 1 p.m. How many people have seen this? It's phenomenal. It is just such a, I don't know how to describe it. It's just there are fewer and fewer fishing boats that come out for this. So if you haven't been there, and for people online, the fishing fleet will line up in the harbor. The priest marches down from St. Nick's and comes down. There's a ceremony in the park, and they honor some of the families that have lost people during fishing season. So they honor those lost lives, ring the bells, and then go out. The priest goes out and sprinkles water on the boats for a blessing. It's really a holy super soaker. So good time. Yes. Mhm. Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Yes, John Pisinich was sharing that that's really cool. I didn't realize that, John. So he started the original Harbor Holidays. Yeah. Oh, very cool. And they used to have 30 boats come for this event. All right. So it's actually really for people online. There used to be a lot more boats. Thank you for that tip. Thank you for that tip. So John gave me a tip on how to get more boats. Peter, sorry, because we're past time. So Soundview will be shut off at Judson. And so the street closures for that day will start at Judson, go Harborview Drive, because the fun run goes from Judson down Harborview Drive up to Peacock Hill, that intersection there. They turn around and then come back. Then the parade starts off by Donkey Creek Park and comes the duration and then ends on Judson Street. Approximately 1 o'clock, the Harborview will open to the point of Rosedale on down into the main heart of downtown. But yeah, Rosedale to Pioneer, basically up to the Tides Tavern, is closed Saturday and Sunday. So we'll have people. Tides parking lot, you'll be able to get access to that after the parade. So you can still go have lunch down there, Peter. And what's up, Kurt?
On that day, I always go park in Peter's driveway, by the way, so, you know. He charges a lot for that, but, yeah, so a few years ago, we were in the dragon boat and we're chasing the priest around in the bay as he's going around blessing the fleet. And he's got the super soaker, you know, so we finally cut him off because we wanted to get squirted with the holy water, you know. So we're going, hey, you know, bless us. And he reaches down, sucks the water out of the bay, blesses it, and he goes, it's holy water. True story. Anyway, thank you so much, Annmarie. That was a stunning presentation. So what's happening next week? Robin Denson's going to be here to share with us what's going on at the county level. And then the week after that will be Derek Kilmer. And then Linda Disney will be here in 2 weeks with her CEO, Tony Teravainen, who's the executive director and co-founder of STEP, which supports the enlisted citizens of our community. And then Sheriff Ed Troyer, Leslie Main will be here in a few weeks with their executive director, Steve Easton. And then Chief Busey will be here at the final Thursday in June. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kurt. Tina, did you want to say anything about the concert at Uptown? Okay, well, during the maritime gig on it's Sunday, it's in the afternoon from 2 to 4, so it will not conflict with any of the activities. It will? Oh, okay. Well, okay. Anyway, there will be a big band concert up in Uptown in the afternoon. So feel free to come if you would like. There's no charge for it. So it's on Saturday. Yeah. Pardon? Not that I know of. Okay. On Route 100, the Pierce County bus line, there will be transportation. So, okay. Well, again, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you all for being here, and look forward to seeing you next week.